2nd, May the 22nd, PFF forecast with George and Eric. We're going to talk about some non-football bets that we are sweating / already sweated through this morning. And then we are going to do quarterback tiers. This is going to be a lot of fun. There may be some tiers as well. I'm going to address Eric on his very questionable tiering of last year's quarterbacks, and we'll see whether he is here to stand for Kirk Cousins or not. You'll have to wait and find out. And then we've got Ballsack or Just Whack and some recommendations. Let's rock. Right before this podcast started, Eric had to show me the replay of an incredible event in a WNBA game, which he is currently sweating out in addition to all of the USFL. By the way, if you just follow Eric on Twitter, you're going to get this like stream of consciousness about the USFL and the WNBA. So fair warning there. How are you doing so far this weekend?
This has been a good, last weekend, to be quite honest, we talked about this on the show. I got killed on a few decisions.
Yeah.
This weekend, it's all come up slower even. We got a field goal at the end there, covered -8. Last night was also great. Over 7 consecutive overs in the USFL.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you tweeted more? If we looked at the quarterbacks you've tweeted the most about, here's my prediction. Okay. It would be number 1, Kirk Cousins. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes. And number 3, Case Cookus.
Can I get a confession? I've actually muted one of those quarterbacks' names because my issue is
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, my issue with Kirk Cousins is and look, you can call me elitist, you can call me whatever you want. 85% of football fans who care about Kirk Cousins are not smart enough to understand the point, right? In that he's a good quarterback who's not good enough to win on his current salary. It shouldn't be that fucking hard, but it's hard. And so I don't like interacting with people who don't take the time to understand that point of view, right? So for that reason, we just don't. I don't really and at this point, I've already made thousands of dollars betting they're under every single year, and so you can think I have bad takes, but you're the one who's poor, and the one that's making money off it. So it's whatever to me, but. And then Case Cookus, of course. Case Cookus won a start yesterday. Won a start as a 2.5-point underdog against the Tampa Bay Bandits. Not a great look yesterday for former NFL coaches Todd Haley and Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher so far has won just one game as a USFL coach. Haley's 3-3.
Ethan, can you clip the part where Eric says, "But you're poor and I'm the one making money"? And please send it to me so that I can tweet it out every single Sunday for the next 5 years.
They don't give out Mayor of Antigua shirts.
That's true. And they also don't give out purple acid wash shirts to losers either. Let's be really clear.
You don't like this shirt?
I do like the shirt.
I think this shirt is very befitting of the type of
people people watching us live on YouTube right now. Please let Eric know how you feel about his shirt. By the way, this is the podcast where we talk about the NFL and betting. And betting sometimes is not on the NFL because right now there's no NFL to bet on. So
I'll address our listeners. By the way, thank you for all showing up today on a Sunday afternoon.
The Syndicate,
Notorious VC. Who said Eric Eager is roasting the haters today. I am. I'm not as good of a cook as George is, but I will try today. USFL and WNBA betting is a sign that your betting life is going off the rails. I don't think so. I actually think there are edges to be had in these leagues.
There are.
And there's no NFL right now. Do you really, George, you've heard my basketball takes before. They've been defended voraciously by our fans. But
which one are you talking about?
The Jokic one. That why I said he was the best player in the league, and then he won the MVP. But
he's not the best player in the league.
But for the most part, that was proven pretty. My NBA basketball takes are, I'll put it lightly, amateur at best.
Yes.
They are not like
You don't want me to rewind to the Chris Middleton, Klay Thompson take, do you?
I'm sorry. What happened to the Bucks after Chris Middleton left?
Klay Thompson is still better after having like an entire leg destroyed.
Whoa. See, this is the issue. This is what I talk about with the Cousins people. I said Chris Middleton was a poor man's Klay.
You said that Chris Middleton was better than Klay Thompson.
No, I did not. I said he was a poor man's Klay. We got to find that clip because he is a poor man's Klay.
That just happened in the office. Like, I don't think it was on.
He was a poor man's Klay.
You said Chris Middleton was better than Klay Thompson. Just like last year, I'm just looking at the evidence here. You had Kirk Cousins ahead of Lamar Jackson.
I had Kirk Cousins in the same
I don't know what happened.
as Lamar Jackson and
this man had Kirk Cousins ahead of Lamar Jackson.
All right.
Hold on. Before we get to quarterback tiers, let me tell you about my Sunday morning.
Love.
Okay. So for those of you that do not follow me along on Twitter, I've been betting on Formula One, all but I think one race. I have put out bets on, and I've used a couple of things. First off, I'm watching practices and qualifying as much as I can. Usually it's like just a little bit here and there. We have some really smart people at PFF, Ben Stockwell and Brad Kondo, Scott Burwinkle as well, who understand F1, and we talk about different strategies and stuff like that, who have given some really good advice. And then I also shout out a guy who listens to the podcast, is a great follow on Twitter, at Sam Hoppin, who simulates, uses a ELO ranking and simulates the races every single week. And I use his power ratings and simulations as a barometer for my bets as well. Now, I have bet on the winner in all but one race so far this year. Okay. So going into this race, for those of you that have not followed along, Eric is one of them, I'll explain. So Charles Leclerc, we've talked about how to pronounce his name, and Max Verstappen are the two best by a mile. Leclerc gets pole, which means he'll start in first. Mm-hmm. And on this track, generally first is a really big advantage. There's not a ton of passing here. However, Verstappen has the better car. His car is faster, and the only reason he didn't get the pole was because he had an issue with his car at the end of qualifying. So Verstappen, despite starting in second, is actually the favorite. He was like minus 110, 115. Mm-hmm. Leclerc starting on the pole was plus 150. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, Verstappen had a few issues with his car. Leclerc not only is starting in first, but also has his teammate starting in third, which I think will help him, and has a fresh set of soft tires, which gives him a tiny bit of an advantage there. So Leclerc, starting in pole at plus 150, I'm like, this is a great bet. So I bet Leclerc plus 150 to win. I bet podium, which is a top three finish for both Mercedes cars, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Russell was like plus 180, if I remember correctly, and Hamilton was like plus 350. And then I also bet Verstappen's teammate, Sergio Perez, to win at 21-1. Okay? So these are the bets I have. Here's how the race goes. Leclerc just gets out to a flying start. Verstappen spins out. Leclerc is like 20 seconds ahead, okay, through 25 laps. I tweet out, this is going to set up for an hour of anxiously waiting for something catastrophic to happen. And guess what happens? Charles Leclerc's car, just his power unit dies. Just fucking dies.
We've all been there.
He's 20 seconds ahead. The guy literally just has to cruise to a victory.
Yeah.
I'm now going to be, continue my streak of exquisite bets, okay? So he has to go in, okay? So he has to retire the car. So now I have the two Mercedes to podium, and then I have Perez to win. Perez gets into first. So I'm looking at 21-1 payout right now, okay? But here's the problem. Verstappen and Perez are teammates, and Verstappen is the better driver. He's the number one driver for the team. They want him to win. So they basically tell Perez, hey, Verstappen is what they said on a different strategy. And what that meant is we have him winning and you not. And so we want you to let him pass. So he lets him pass. So it goes Verstappen, Perez, and then George Russell, who I bet to podium, actually does come in third. It ended up not being all bad because I bet Russell to podium, and he was plus 180. Had Leclerc stayed in, Russell might not have podiumed anyways, so ended up being a good day. But I felt all of those bets were like really great bets. Basically, all of them had a really great chance to hit. Hamilton actually got a tire puncture like 10 seconds into the race and still finished, was it 5th or 6th? So P5 or 6, sorry. So that is my morning for Formula One.
I love that. By the way, I don't do F1. I'm supportive. I think people, when they don't do something because they're not interested, will go and try to trash other people for liking it. Mm-hmm. I'm extremely.
Don't do that.
I like waking up. On Sundays. I like seeing you tweet about bets you're making and stuff. I gotta say though, the whole time you were talking, I thought of Matt Vasgersian. Every time you say that, the Vest, whatever his name is, I always get those two mixed up. And also when you said they start on the pole, all I could think about was Talladega Nights, the joke, right before the crepes.
I knew that was coming.
And of course, so that's where I'm at. By the way, so did you bet? We'll start talking about football in a second, but let's go. Lastly, I did not bet golf other than Scotty Scheffler. By the way, he didn't even make the cut. So at 12-1, he did not make the cut. I didn't know enough about that. I did not make a bet Thursday. On Friday, though, I had Justin Rose in a matchup against Tiger, and as I'm wont to do, because everybody likes betting Tiger, I always think that there's value on betting against Tiger. Yeah. I bet against him with Rose. Rose starts out +3. Tiger starts out -1. I'm in a pit of misery. By the time his work is over on Friday, Rose is -1, Tiger's +1. I'm thinking, okay, I can go for a bike ride. I go for a bike ride, I come back. Tiger beats him, makes the cut. Did you have that bet? Did you have him making the cut?
I bet Tiger to win and Tiger to make the cut out of loyalty.
Loyalty, yep.
Yeah, had to. I didn't. So I placed the Scheffler bet. And here was the thing. So I wanted to bet this morning, pre-final round. And I worked while watching the Formula One race and then after the Formula One race, and basically forgot to bet on the PGA before going to work out. And by the time I got back, it had already started. But the guy that I was thinking of betting on was Cameron Young, who is a 25-year-old kid, has a ton of power, has played really, really well. Mito Pereira and Matthew Fitzpatrick and Will Zalatoris. Are you kidding me? Those are the guys that are ahead of him. Let me look. He's 5.
Zalatoris, by the way, really funny name, I think.
Great. I like Zalatoris. I would not be super confident about Mito Pereira here. He's already Pereira's already +1 through 4. Zalatoris -2 through 5. Cameron Young, my guy, is -6. Yeah. -1 through 5. I would bet Cameron Young 5-1.
There's a happy ending to this
story. I'm betting him
though,
5-1
because on Saturday I wake up not to be deterred after a big. This is like a few $100s that I lost on something I don't know all that much about, but something I have a strong opinion of.
Yeah.
I bet about 2/3 of it back on. I think it was like Hadwin in a matchup. It was basically even money with Woods, and Woods was the worst golfer on the course on Saturday. So I ended up getting that W there back, which was helpful.
Nicely done.
I still lost money betting against Tiger, which should teach me a lesson, but I will continue to do it.
Shall we do some?
Let's tear it up.
Let's tear it up. Before we tear it up, it is important for me to remind you all that if you are looking to give someone a gift, maybe a little midsummer gift, maybe you have a birthday, maybe you're looking to give yourself a gift, the PFF subscription is a great gift to give yourself right now because you can get it for 25% off with promo code FORECAST, FORECAST, and then that'll set you up for the entirety of the next year. Get you all the data and grades, fantasy football rankings and projections, all of our locked fantasy content, and with an elite subscription, you get all of the great betting tools that we use and talk about every single day. Also, if you are using PFF.com, right now, that probably means that you are going to play some fantasy football. And to sharpen your skills for fantasy football, you're going to want to head to Underdog Fantasy. They allow you to play best ball fantasy football. If you're not familiar with what that is, that means that all you have to do is draft a team, and then every week they play your best players.
This reminds me to do that every single week. Underdog Fantasy. I have money in my account, but I need to I need to set my rankings. They make you set your rankings.
It's kind of cool.
It is good, but sometimes I like to know what the ADP is myself.
Like to roll in. Their Best Ball Mania tournament has $10 million. That's an M in total prize money. And the best part is you just draft and that's it. The champion of Best Ball Mania last year drafted in June. So there's no time like the present to join Underdog and take your shot at $1 million draft. Plus, Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100 when you sign up with the promo code PFF. And there's an addition. There's a little cherry on top. If you play 10 of those dollars using the promo code PFF, you get a free PFF subscription. This is such a good deal. I cannot believe that we're doing this deal. I got to be very honest with you. I'm going to need to get in touch with Austin and Connor and see what the hell we're doing, how we're giving this away. But we are. So I don't know what you're waiting for. Go download the Underdog Fantasy app or go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Play $10 with the code PFF. Draft your Best Ball Mania team and profit. All right, it's QB tier time.
My rankings right now.
QB tier time. Oh. Let me remind the people. Last year we did this. Here were your tiers. Actually, this doesn't even have your tiers. It has your rankings. Mahomes,
yeah, by the way, they weren't my rankings.
Mahomes,
I was being
Brady, Rodgers, Wilson, Allen, Prescott, Ryan, Cousins, Mayfield, Jackson. Now, I can't laugh at you for the Mayfield thing. I had Mayfield in there as well. I don't know what I was smoking, what we were smoking.
We both had Cousins top 10, right?
And but that's fine. I had Lamar. There ahead of our guy Kirk Cousins. Thank God.
To vend myself, this was I was using, by the way, they're going to be up on the website soon. I was using our against the spread numbers for quarterbacks in the NFL, and there were definitive tiers, right? There was the Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers tier. There was the Wilson, Allen, Prescott tier. Then there was the Ryan, Cousins, Mayfield, Jackson tier that I also believe had Derek Carr. Kirk Carr is a Freudian like there. And I just said those names in that order. That being said, obviously there's a little bit of a dunk for having, like, I don't know, interestingly, right? Cousins had a better year last year than Lamar did.
Well, yeah, but Lamar was injured.
Lamar was injured, but he was not a great passer. He was not.
He was off to a pretty good start.
He was off to a good start. They were winning games because Lamar was being otherworldly. They didn't have a ton in the way of support for him. That being said, it's going to be a different ranking this year just because of what we saw in Lamar last year that probably doesn't show up in, as our former boss Neil Hornsby would say, the numbers.
Okay, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
So, do we want to just? I have 8 tiers.
And by the way, the parameters here are the hay is in the barn. We are picking quarterbacks for 2022. So we are not doing kind of what the Athletic did or what.
Yeah, this is not a futures draft.
This isn't a futures draft. We are going to rank Brady and Mahomes the same way. Like, we're gonna rank Brady and Mahomes as if
this is the 2022.
You get this year's version of them. And at this point in time, we are going to factor in a little bit of what they're making because that's going to influence their performance by who they can have around them. But we are not going to be like, we're going to ding a guy. Per dollar thing. We're not going to increase Hurts because he's only making so much money.
Yep. Okay. Why don't you go first? Tier 1.
Tier 1 for me, in no real order, although.
Did you have a criteria for tier 1, by the way?
Tier 1 are players who are 7 points better than the replacement level quarterback on the point spread. Okay. Allen, in fact, is to me a half point worse than these 3 guys, which is weird because a lot of people are putting Allen first. But I have Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers, Allen.
And that's in order. No, just tier 1.
Just tier 1. I mean, it's really hard to. Brady's been the best quarterback in the NFL for the last 2 years. Rodgers has obviously been the MVP, so he deserves a lot of credit. But Mahomes, to me, is if I were starting a roster right now, I'd still take Mahomes first. There's, he has not performed from a statistical perspective as well. But when you look at all the metrics, whether it be like box count above expectation, whether you look at linebacker, how linebackers flow, stuff like that. Like, Mahomes is just playing a much harder game than all these other players are. The last 3 years, the wins above replacement, Tom Brady, 12.58, Aaron Rodgers, 11.09, Patrick Mahomes, 10.56, no other players over 10. So Mahomes is third and more over the last 3 years, and that includes a Super Bowl year for him and a Super Bowl year for Brady.
I'm worried I'm going to get flamed for this, but I'm going to stick to my guns here. So tier 1, I defined as follows. Aliens who, no matter how far behind they are in a game, they're never out.
That's a good way to put it.
And I have Mahomes, Brady, and Allen. I didn't put Rodgers in there. Now, the reason I didn't put Rodgers in there is I do think it's going to be interesting to see what, it looks like without Adams. And the fact of the matter is that it hasn't been good in the playoffs. It's just like it hasn't. Allen, Mahomes, and Brady have all done things in the playoffs that are dramatically better than anyone else in the league. And so that's why I have them in tier 1. I battled with this a little bit. I actually wanted to put Herbert and Rodgers in there, and I did not. I thought about putting Herbert and Rodgers. I had Herbert and Rodgers in. I took them out. Had Herbert and Rodgers in. Took them out. It's really close for me. So, please, this is not. I'm not trying to draw the ire of Green Bay Packers.
You're just trying to draw attention to yourself.
I mean, honestly though, for me, the confidence that I thought about it this way: the confidence I would have if I had bet on one of these guys to win the game, and I'm down 20. I have faith that Allen, Mahomes, and Brady are going to find a way to come back and give me a shot. Too many times with Aaron Rodgers, it's like you're down and then you're out, And I don't know that that's Rodgers necessarily. That could be supporting cast as well, but that's just
you have to go back. But somebody for the Ringer did look and say how many times Rodgers has been successful in comeback situations, and it's not that impressive even relative to other teams. And the majority of his comeback wins, I believe, are against Chicago and Detroit. So there is some funniness there.
Well, when you're playing at home,
Yeah. Well, so my tier 1 is mostly guys that I see I don't think have weaknesses. I think Allen's weakness to me and why I have him maybe a half a point less on the point spread is the accuracy thing that got worse last year. But he does have the rushing thing, but I wonder how much longer, when you look at the linebacker data, Allen just holds linebackers in place because of who he is as a runner. So he adds value there. Interestingly with the Packers, and this might speak to your point, no team flowed against the run more voraciously than teams against the Packers. I think that the interesting thing about this season is the Packers already are kind of a run-first team. They're set up to be a run-first team, and people run, So, and part of me is okay, they got their defense better. They still have 2 great running backs. Their offensive line has to get better. Zach Tom is a great draft pick. They get Bakhtiari back. And they get Robert Tonyan to run the tight end stuff in the play-action game. So there's a part of me that thinks, okay, this team can be better even without – and then the wide receiver play has to emerge. There's got to be 2 or 3 wide receivers that emerge, but they're not working with absolutely nothing anymore with Watson, Watkins, Cobb, and Dubs from Nevada. My second tier are guys that I think are missing just that where you have to project a little bit for them to be in the top group. Okay? And that is, and I think I'll put this in order. I think this is in order. Herbert, Burrow, Watson, and Herbert and Burrow are the same to me. Herbert, Burrow, Watson, Jackson, and Wilson. So Wilson falls for me from last year.
Herbert, Wilson.
Burrow.
Herbert, Burrow.
Watson.
Oh, okay.
Jackson, Wilson. Okay. So Herbert and Burrow are missing something in that their game is still, and I mean this in no disrespect, but their game is a little Wentzian right now. In that
that is a lot of disrespect.
Yeah. But 2017 Wentz, where were we putting him? I mean, we're putting him here.
Yeah, that's fair.
And early on in Wentz's career was a lot of suboptimal coaching, run on first down, not the most accurate in the world, and then a third down bailout. Burrow was on this podcast recently at Jeff Ruby's where he said, the sacks I take don't count. Well, he's wrong. Burrow led the NFL in first down sacks taken. There is issue with him, and he was amazing. You watch the Chiefs game, for example, of just absolutely bailing his team out on third down. Herbert's sort of the same thing. Herbert's great at everything, but he put himself, or they put himself, or whatever, into a lot of third down. You think about Week 18 game, all of his throws were money on third and fourth down. Okay, if that takes a step back, then you're not getting production commensurate with the tier 1 guys. And so, again, talent-wise, Herbert's in tier 1. But, so far as a production part of it, he's in tier 2 with Burrow. Watson, there's tons of questions about everything with Watson, but from the football perspective, it's whether he can play that under center, run the football, boot action kind of offense. When in Houston, he was very much a stand in the shotgun and throw to one really good guy a lot. and move around. Obviously, Jackson, so now, I have him 8th, ish, which is kind of where we had him last year. He moves up a little bit because I was impressed with how much he was able to overcome bad wide receiver play, bad offensive line play, bad defensive play, but he was not good last year from a accuracy and all that kind of perspective. And then Wilson, like, the big question is, can he, like, everybody in tier 2 is an unquestioned franchise quarterback, in my opinion. The question with Wilson is, can he do what Rodgers did in 2020, a year early? Because Rodgers in 2019 was not his great self under Nathaniel Hackett the first year.
Okay, I'm proving to be a little bit more of a Scrooge here than you, which maybe is par for the course. I actually did not expect this to be the case. But my tier 2 is very simply guys that when they're on their game, they're in tier 1. But there are just a few things that show up where you go, sometimes, it's just not quite there. And I actually am not putting Lamar, Russ, or Watson in here because I think there are a lot of unknowns there. There are. And the guy that I was most close to putting into this group was Lamar. And I think you could make a case there. But I'm going Rodgers, Herbert, Burrow. And to your point, Burrow took the most sacks in the NFL last year. That is an issue. For Herbert, the question for me is really his offense. Like, his offense does not, his average depth of target was, I want to say, bottom 7 last year for a guy with a cannon of an arm. That's holding him back a little bit. And we already talked about the Rodgers stuff in terms of, when everything else is falling apart around you, are you able to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps? So I have Herbert, Rodgers, Burrow, and that of course means that I'm leaving Watson, Lamar, and Russ out of that group.
Okay. So it's interesting because I think then your tier 3 is going to be slightly different than my tier 3 because my tier 3 includes 2 players.
Okay, so now you have the 2 players.
So my 2 players in tier 3 are, and again, this is where my worldview on Dak has changed, my worldview on Stafford has changed in separate directions. Going into last season, I thought Dak Prescott was and again, my opinion on Dak Prescott has oscillated quicker and more, the C on the sine curve is extremely high. I thought that at first I thought he was.
The podcaster, you have to Wikipedia sine curve.
I thought that Dak at first was not worthy of being paid. I thought he was kind of a mid-level quarterback. Mm-hmm. And then when we saw him in 19 and 20, I thought that, okay, this is a franchise guy. Yeah. And then you see last year and you're like, oh, Cooper Rush can come off the bench and beat a decent Vikings team on the road without you. And then you come back and the only teams that you're actually playing against are kind of horrible teams. I do believe, though, in my heart of hearts, that Dak Prescott can string together 4 great games and win a Super Bowl. I just don't know if he can do it. I don't know if for a 17-game season he can even compete with some of these top guys. I think the same thing's true about Stafford. Stafford led the NFL in interceptions last year. He was also amazing for half the season and obviously, evidently, can win a Super Bowl even when things break down. Odell gets hurt. Robert Woods gets hurt.
Whitworth was hurt.
Whitworth was hurt for a part of the stretch, and Stafford won a Super Bowl. So tier 3 to me are guys who are just on the borderline being worthy of the $40-50 million contract, but those teams are going to constantly be disappointed because you're paying for consistency of top-end play when what you're getting is spurts of top-end play that's probably worth it. I think about it like growing up in Minnesota was the Minnesota Twins win 95 games and get swept every first round of the playoffs, or you can be the Ozzie Guillen Chicago White Sox that never made the playoffs and then one time they make it in 05 and they win the World Series, right? Which one would you rather have?
Ozzie Guillen.
The tier 3, these are the Ozzie Guillen White Sox quarterbacks.
I like that. The way I classified tier 3, I think, was similar, which is tier 1, they're aliens. Tier 2, they're usually aliens, but there are times where they're not. And tier 3 is where the high end is that of an alien, but that high end is happening, 50% of the time as opposed to like 80% of the time. And so I, again, here have Lamar, Russ, Watson, Stafford, Dak, kind of in that order. The one for me that is at the top of this tier is Lamar. And I want to be clear. Last year seems like a down year for him. People need to go back and watch Lamar play football in the first 6 weeks of the NFL season last year and recognize that he was dealing with a team that was also getting injured. His number one receiver was Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown is a nice little piece here, but Hollywood Brown is not a good number one receiver. That is not a good situation for him. And the dynamism that he has running the football needs to be taken into account. I will be excited to see how he looks with the Ravens this year. I was going to leave Watson off because of obvious reasons, like fuck him. But I put him on here for the sake of the conversation. Russ and Dak for me are interesting because both of them have some big unknowns. I also liked putting Dak and Stafford in the same tier because to me they've had really great supporting casts in the years where they've been successful, and in years where they've been, mediocre to average, that has happened a little too frequently, right? That's you can argue about why that is for Stafford up and down the thing, but obviously his high-end play is deserving. I'm sure there will be people that will be pissed that I have these guys in tier 3, but
yeah, there's a lot of activity in the chat, which we love. We love having you guys there. A lot of people don't even like the Herbert thing. I'm honest. Look, I love Herbert. I think Herbert's gonna be great. I was wrong about Herbert. Every time I give a academic talk to these sports analytics clubs, I have 2 slides. One where I'm watching the Rose Bowl, betting on Oregon, saying he's not a first-round pick, right? Like Herbert is a cautionary tale for downplaying traits and stuff like that. The motherfucker hasn't made the playoffs yet. Like when you talk about production, like there are aspects of that team that is not as productive as they could be, right? Like come at me when he makes the playoffs, but he's a tier 1 talent so far that has had tier 2 production. That is the truth. And look,
so people are pissed that he's not in tier 1.
Yeah, beat Derek Carr in week 18 for fuck's sake. Honestly,
I thought they would be pissed that he was in tier 2 already, giving him too much credit. That's really really interesting.
So that's your bias. That's like talking to me every day.
Yeah,
and talking to games with
guys.
Me. Tier 2 has Deshaun Watson, who is the highest paid player in the history, biggest guaranteed contract in the history of the league, despite the fact he might be a sex offender. Like he's in that class, folks.
Okay.
Sorry.
Tier 4.
Tier 4 for me. This is the Kirk tier. And I know
that's so funny because that's exactly what I wrote.
And look, people are going to be mad because the Cardinals are going to be kirked out here.
The Kirk Cousins Carr tier.
They're going to be kirked out here because they're going to pay him his money, and then it's going to be a privilege for about 4 or 5 years for Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury and company. By the way, on a podcast I do with Seren Petro called Too Deep, we went through tiers of coaches, and I put Cliff Kingsbury in the can't coach tier.
Wow.
How the mighty have fallen. So this one goes no particular order because look, it's a potpourri of Kirkiness here. Cousins, Ryan, Carr, Tannehill, and Murray. Ryan being in there hurts me because I know that he hasn't been that kind of guy his whole career. But I think when you watch Ryan on the Falcons last year, you see exactly his Kirkiness. Like that team was dysfunctional and he played to the team. I thought he played well in the first half of the year. There's also an aspect of both Cousins and Ryan where if you look at their grades, you look at their production down the stretch, both guys, like Kirk's 34 years old. When, my buddy Matthew Collar, who covers the Vikings, when Joe Flacco was 34 years old, he was playing for the Denver Broncos, not the Baltimore Ravens anymore. Like we are stunted by all these great quarterbacks getting old and growing into it. Ryan got old last year, and Cousins got old down the stretch last year as far as arm strength and that kind of thing. So these are good quarterbacks. They're quarterbacks that if you did what you did with Stafford last year and you put them on a winning team, you could probably win a Super Bowl. You cannot build – if this quarterback is on a team, you cannot build a Super Bowl contender around them because of salary and because of limitations. Okay. You can insert them onto and so Ryan, for example, you can insert them onto a Super Bowl ready team and win. You cannot build a winner around any of these guys.
This is interesting. Okay, this is where I thought we were going to agree very strongly on this. We actually disagree here. So I called this the Kirk tier as well, but my definition for this was I can't sit here and tell you that even with a great team, they're winning a Super Bowl. I can't. I think I would want to, but I can't. And I also don't have Tannehill in here. I have someone that you don't. I have Carr, Cousins, Kyler, and Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
And Jalen Hurts I put in here, and the reason I put him in here was I didn't really feel like he fit in any of the others. He was good last year, okay? He had a 77 PFF grade right there with Derek Carr. And, you know, he actually had some decent pieces around him. It still wasn't great. I have a lot of excitement. I think his supporting cast is great this year, and I anticipate him being really good. Kyler, on the other hand, I have some real skepticism behind, right? That I don't have a ton of faith in his supporting cast. I didn't like the way he played down the stretch. So
touchdown Houston Maulers, by the way, or Houston Gamblers, by the way, if you're looking for that over in that game.
So this is kind of like two tiers in one. Obviously, you have Carr and Cousins there. I feel like Carr and Cousins are basically the same quarterback, except that I would rather have Carr from a leadership standpoint. And Hurts and Kyler.
Why is it okay when people like you say that, and when people like me say that, I'm just a hater? Like, you just come out and say like, oh yeah, like Stephon Diggs wanted out of Minnesota because Kirk was not a great leader. Ryan Grant reportedly didn't sign with he'd rather be unemployed than play for the Vikings because he hated Kirk Cousins. But everybody else is allowed to say Kirk is a bullshit leader, which is probably true, but also not great for people to say.
I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. So on Sunday Night Football, they record the.
By the way, great. Chief Matt One call it kissing Cousins tier. That's a pretty good one.
That's unfair. It's not. That's you thinking that only thing that matters here is Cousins. So on Sunday Night Football, they record the hype up like speech before the game.
Oh, we know.
And my first year working with Sunday Night Football, we had a few Vikings games. So the first Vikings game, it's Kirk Cousins. He comes in there, and his voice cracks. It was, I don't even remember if he said actual words. It was the opposite of a hype up. Literally, no one was hyped. We're all laughing. Next time we have the Vikings, Cousins doesn't even get to do the hype up.
Is it like Linval Joseph?
It's Everson Griffin the next time. So
well, even the playoff game he won against the Saints, like you remember his like when he was doing the cadence, his like voice would crack and stuff. Like,
I mean, that's a little different.
Again,
but like
I think I made a tweet. So let's get back to Hurts actually, because I made a tweet this week and I said no one's
first time for everything.
No one. Every take about Jalen Hurts is wrong, is what I said. I think including yours, George. Like and look, I like the situation Hurts is in. I like having Hurts as a quarterback. He earned 0.7 of a win per $1 million spent last year, or the Eagles did at the quarterback position. He was per dollar the most valuable quarterback in football. You know, if you look at the subtraction, I think more guys like Burrow. Like if you take earned minus. There's the additive aspect. You'll go Herbert, Burrow, and guys like that. But per dollar, if you multiply or divide there, he was fantastic. The issue is though, as a passer, he's extremely limited. You're looking at 7.2 yards per pass attempt with an average depth of target of 9.5 is fine actually, but 25 big time throws, 23 turnover worthy plays. So you're sort of even money there. You had 23 turnover worthy plays, only 11 interceptions. So you're going to get some regression there, I think, next year. The running is fantastic. And the running to me is great. 7.2 yards per pass attempt is very good if you're making what he's making. My issue here is I think if you paid him $40 million, his limitations would be far starker than Cousins. Like
that's interesting.
If you put him on the Vikings would be worse than if you had Cousins. I think.
So that's
at that salary.
Yeah, that's interesting because the reason I put Hurts in here was I felt his supporting cast last year was super limited. I mean, let's think about his receiving core for a second. His best receiver was Devontae Smith, who was a rookie, who I think is really good. Mm-hmm. Who was the second best receiver on that team?
Dallas Goedert's a very good player. They had
That's my point
That
exactly.
Miles Sanders is a good guy out of the backfield. At the
My point exactly.
At the line of scrimmage, the Philadelphia, and this is why the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be good. And this brings
Their
me back.
offensive line is great.
This brings me back to the point I want to make about the Eagles. This is, I think, what says everything about Jalen Hurts. If the Philadelphia Eagles want to go over their win total this year, they should do exactly what they did with Jalen Hurts last year, which is to say, we're not trying to develop him as a passer. We're going to use him exactly for what he's good at. And that ultimately might hurt Jalen Hurts' stock in the future, but will be better for the Eagles. If the Eagles just say, look, we're not going to overdo it. We're not going to try to develop him as a passer. We're going to keep the same run pass rates we had in the second half of the year. The Eagles will be a very good football team. Mm-hmm. If they decide we have to throw 65% of the time because we need to decide what we have in this asset, they might win only 8 games. And I think the Eagles are smart enough to know that, like, Hurts might not be the long-term answer, and that's perfectly fine. And that's part of my whole everybody's wrong about this team rant, is that he's a great value now. For 4 years, he's going to give the Eagles wonderful quarterback play at cost, and he's probably not going to be worth the $40 million that he should ask for if he plays this well and they win with him at quarterback. So that's where, and so when I go to tier 5, this is kind of where I'm at as well. So I have Hurts, Mac Jones, Jameis Winston, Tua Tagovailoa, the Niners quarterback. And actually, I don't care who it is, frankly. Lance or Jimmy G, I think will give them equal value in median. I think higher floor with Jimmy, higher ceiling with Lance. Fields, Lawrence, Trubisky, and Wilson. I actually think that the sneaky one here is Trubisky. I actually think Trubisky is in this group. I'm giving him some of the benefit of the doubt.
That
with
is
Matt
a
Nagy.
lot of benefit of the doubt.
I think Trubisky's when you looked at him in the preseason with Buffalo, you look at, when he was in Buffalo being coached by great coaches, the league all of a sudden got hot on him. Mm-hmm. It's like there's probably something with Trubisky that Matt Nagy was holding back. The Matt Nagy thing's a paradox because that team still made the playoffs twice with Mitch Trubisky and how awful he was. Touchdown New Jersey Generals for that over. So I think Trubisky is in this group.
Okay. I don't. I also still do not have Matt Ryan or Ryan Tannehill in here. Tier 5 for me are young guys that still have a ceiling that you can be excited about, and one guy who's a little older, but I think his ceiling is still pretty high, and he's one of our favorites. It is Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and Jameis.
Jameis is being underrated here. He's cheap and he's talented. Yeah. Like that dude led the league in passing yards one year.
Yes.
And I know Blake Bortles had a 30 touchdown season, but Jameis when Jameis threw the 30 picks, he threw 33 touchdown passes. Like that. Think about how many drives. If he gets average interception luck that year, he might have 40 touchdowns because half of those drives he wasn't able to do anything. I like that.
Okay. Who's your next tier?
Okay, my tier 6 are guys that need a lot of help just to get to tier 5.
Okay.
And some of these guys can't play. So I'm grouping a lot of folks into this one.
Okay, it's a big tier for you.
This is a big tier for me.
Okay.
So this is Mariota, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz. Big fall for Carson Wentz, by the way, being a Super Bowl quarterback and now being in tier 6. Mm-hmm. Davis, Mills. And then I'm putting these 2 guys in here because I don't know, man. I don't see that big of a difference. And in fact, we at times saw something in both of these guys, Sam Darnold and Drew Lock. So they're in that group of guys who can't play.
Okay.
I didn't make a separate group of like these guys singularly suck because I actually think there could be something in Darnold and Lock. And I don't want to give Mariota and guys like that credit they don't deserve.
Okay. You were far more generous here than I was. Tier 6 for me were guys that with a really good offense and a great supporting cast, I think you can make it into the playoffs. And you never know, like depending on.
You do never know.
You just never know from that point on, right? So Jimmy G, this is the Jimmy G tier in my mind. And I put Jared Goff in the Jimmy G tier. I put Matt Ryan in the Jimmy G tier. I have Ryan Tannehill in the Jimmy G tier. And I have Daniel Jones in the Jimmy G tier. I do not have a lot of the guys that you have there. I still don't have Trubisky in here. I do not have Baker Mayfield in here. To me, this is one where, like, I almost feel bad putting Jimmy G in here because Jimmy G's had so much more success than these guys. But I think it's actually a good, Jared Goff also went to a Super Bowl, right? It's like you have a really uniquely great supporting cast and a great offensive coordinator with these guys. I think you can go decently far. Tier 7, who do you have?
I don't. That's it.
Oh, so the floor is mine.
The floor is yours.
Tier 7. Tier 7 is...
But it should be spelled TEAR 7.
Okay, so tier 7 for me is if you are trying to be optimistic about your season, this is a tough group of quarterbacks to go in with, but it's not all hope is lost. Okay, this is the not all hope. This is me being positive, Eric. This is the not all hope is lost, but man, there's a lot of question marks. Tyler Huntley, Tua, Baker, Trubisky.
Baker. So you went with Baker because I just don't see Baker on a team. Like, does Baker get on a roster this year? Like, do we?
I mean, Tyler Huntley should be like.
Yeah, Huntley's a good football player.
I mean, let's be clear. I would start Baker Mayfield over the guys in the following tier. Tier 8 is the you don't have a shot tier. Okay, punt on 2022. You should tank this year. Tier 8 is the TEAR tank tier. The triple T. Carson Wentz. He is the face of this tier. Marcus Mariota, Davis Mills, Drew Lock, Sam Darnold, and all the rookie quarterbacks. And that, friends, is the correct tiering of the quarterbacks.
Yeah. You should like don't even try tier.
Yes.
For everybody that thinks we hate your quarterback, unless they're in that tier, we have at least given them a shot this year.
I have hope. I have faith in all the tiers. Mm-hmm. What's your now that we've compared our tiers? What's the one that you now are questioning the most? I have 2.
I think tiers 5 and 6 you could break up more. I just don't see the biggest distinction with some of these. Mm-hmm. And do they matter? No. You taking Watson and Wilson out of tier 2 makes some sense. Even though, again, my criteria is I think these guys are unquestioned quarterbacks for a team. Mm-hmm. So,
I think that's fair. The two that I'm still really struggling with are Rodgers tier 1 because the guy's amazing in the regular season. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to knock him too much for losing Devontae Adams. I can get on board with the Russ Watson stuff, but there's a lot of question marks there, right? A lot of question marks. Russ has been a guy that has been helped by the fact that he's in some ways, and Ben Baldwin, I'd love to have Ben Baldwin on to talk about this. In some ways, our opinion of Russell Wilson has been helped by how stupid his offense has been.
Yeah.
Right? Because he isn't asked, we make a lot of assumptions about, let Russ cook. They never let him cook. So on a
there's information in,
that we don't totally have, right?
There's information in the fact that they would not let Russ cook that
and he takes a ton of sacks.
Okay.
And for Deshaun Watson, you were great one year.
Watson took a lot of sacks too.
Took a lot of sacks. You are a person of whom I would not want on my team.
Yes.
And what's the most games you won in a season? Then
hold on. So Watson won 2 division titles with Bill O'Brien as his head coach.
Well, okay, yeah, that's fair. I should take that back. What I meant to say,
the 4-12 season was a bad year, but it was also pandemic. It was also the Bill O'Brien traded his best target for a second round pick.
Wipe that. Cut that out. That was bad. That was a bad point. The other one that I am struggling with is obviously the Jalen Hurts. I feel strongly about him as a total package. I also don't believe his supporting cast was that great last year. I think it will be good this year. But this is why we do this. Like, we're going to be wrong, and it'll be interesting to see where we're wrong.
I think the Jalen Hurts thing is cool, though, because in the same vein that, like, no one's right about Jalen Hurts, like, it also means that, like, I think we're all, like, humble about what could be the possibilities for him. I think, like, there's a non-zero chance that he could come out and be great and earn that contract. I also think it's just going to be hard because, you know, we've already seen a lot of false positives in the NFL.
Yeah.
If he comes out and plays okay again and they make the playoffs and let's say they win a playoff game even, like it's going to be one of the harder sort of discussions about like, okay, what are we going to do here? Because, you know, they very much could like, because the issue is at the quarterback position, the only player in the new system that has taken a sort of mid-tier deal after being a starter is Blake Bortles. Mm-hmm. And if you're an agent for a quarterback, you're not coming in and saying, I'm going to get the Blake Bortles deal for my guy Jalen, right? It's either the Trubisky deal, the Jameis deal, or it's the big-time deal. And, like, if Hurts plays down the middle football, the same thing's true for Mac Jones, by the way.
Let me actually ask you this question. Let's say that I'm right. Let's say that he is in this tier, okay? Let's say he is Carr, Cousins,
right?
Kyler tier 4. Okay, so that's behind, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's like QB 12, 13.
What do you do with him?
What are you doing with him?
I would say the history of paying quarterbacks 12, 13 is really sketchy. So if me, a data-driven person, now there's also the questions about like, team building and all that stuff. And these are people and they respond to these things. And if you're running the Eagles and, one of the things, the message you send to your team when you don't re-up a quarterback, that's the same thing with Lamar Jackson. Like Lamar won an MVP, so I think it's a little different. But, the problem is these are expensive mistakes when you make them. So I would probably not pay him. I would probably trade him to a team that's desperate. Now, this offseason, we had a lot of trades for quarterbacks, but we also have the musical chairs going off, and a guy like Baker has nowhere to go. And Baker's had, I hate to piss off Eagles fans, but Baker's had a similar career to Jalen Hurts.
That was not a comp I was expecting. Okay.
Right? Like,
no, it's a good point. It's a very good point.
Egg timer went off, and no one wants Baker Mayfield. So that's the risk you run.
I'll say this, though. You can say that about their career from a production standpoint overall in aggregate. There might not be two more polar opposites in terms of wanting to root for a guy versus kind of not.
Sure, but
like to the point that I think that's a real thing, right? Like Baker Mayfield does not have goodwill within, and that matters. It does matter. Jalen Hurts, I think, by all accounts, does things the right way. Now, I don't know enough to like confirm that, but that's everything that we've heard. Okay, we have a ball sack or just whack. Hit me.
Alrighty.
By the way, as you're pulling this up, for people that are new to the show, new to the syndicate, this is where Eric reads me a tweet, and I have to guess whether it is from the venerable Twitter account Ballsack Sports, or it is just a terrible take from an actual person.
We have a couple tweets here.
Okay,
the first one
let's go.
is he was caught in 4K. It's hard to win when your superstar shows up drunk. He should have shown up hungover. We could have said he had the flu. Jason Kidd on the Mavs blowout loss in Game 1.
This is a good one because that picture of Luka having a beer before the game was apparently not from right before the game, shockingly.
Wait a sec. You're talking about some embezzlement there?
Right,
embellishment?
I know. So this is obviously Ballsack Sports, but it's well done by them. I bet it got a couple of people.
Yeah, well, and he's been getting people the whole time. Now, there's another tweet from Ballsack Sports, which is interesting. This might mean we have to retire the segment, or we have to find another, or maybe we have a PFF Ballsack account that we keep the thing going. Ballsack Sports. Hey guys, I'm not going to be talking about sports on here as often as it's not where my passions currently reside. My heart and passion is really centered on human rights and world issues, and it's been for a while. So I think he's retiring.
Wait. I think that's a Ballsack tweet. That is, in my opinion, a Ballsack tweet within a Ballsack tweet.
How
long ago was this?
This morning.
That's a Ballsack tweet within a Ballsack tweet.
Okay. So we're gonna
see.
We're gonna see.
I think he's bluffing.
Yeah.
Based on what I understand, I mean, maybe that's true, and kudos to him. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a Ballsack tweet within a Ballsack tweet.
Yeah. Saying you care about human rights is apparently like political, so I commend him for saying that's what he wants to do. We'll see how, obviously it was a great run if it's over. Yeah. But yeah, it's certainly caught me. I know he's been tweeting and dragged a little bit about like things that he supports and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if he continues this way.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong then.
New Jersey Generals quarterback DeAndre Johnson injured. Luis Perez is coming in. He does not. He looks kind of really injured here. 7-7, 5:15 left in the first quarter.
Okay. I don't know. Let me check here. Cameron Young has dropped a shot. He's 3 back. But we're only through 8. We've got some opportunities here. Okay, what's your recommendation? This is the segment of the show where each of us give a recommendation. Generally, Eric's are good, and it's either a show or a book or a podcast, and mine get roasted for being elitist.
Yeah, so the first one that I want to do, I've been listening to it a fair amount recently, is Against the Rules with Michael Lewis, a podcast.
Ooh.
I
gotta check that out.
Very good. He talks, and DeAndre Johnson appears to need help getting off the field here. So it's the Luis Perez show. He's fantastic. He has 3 seasons now of the podcast. He breaks them up by themes. It's not anything like a normal podcast. Like he literally reads off a script, which is kind of his writing style too. One of the best writers, if not the best, of our generation. He has a good one there. The second one. And this is a movie, it's on Hulu right now. So you can get it if you have a Hulu subscription, It's free. And I convinced our colleague Dave Sofaro to watch it last night because I was watching it and it was a vibe. A Beautiful Mind is a great movie.
It is a great movie.
And A Beautiful Mind is a great movie. Russell Crowe, is fantastic. He's flexing in that movie. Paul Bettany is I think the imaginary friend in that movie is fantastic. And I got to say, Jennifer Connelly has it. She's very good in that movie. Although, as somebody who used to be a professor, the blatant illegality of dating your student who's currently in your class is a little bit of an embellishment. That one always kind of strikes me as kind of odd and weird. But that's the only problem with the movie, in my opinion.
It's a great movie. Okay. I will have, by the way, a recommendation for the folks. A food recommendation potentially.
Ooh.
After I'm trying something new and I'm excited to let people know how it goes. It's also something that I found on TikTok / Instagram. So we'll see. I'm not one to generally do that, but I am trying that. Anyways, this is not what my recommendation is for today. My recommendation for today is both a recommendation and a warning. So my recommendation for today is for all the fellas that are looking to get their hair right for the summer, okay? Couple of things for you.
Clearly me.
The first is, what are you washing your hair with? And I have a recommendation for you. It is Kevin Murphy. I use the wash and the rinse. You can go check out what I mean by that on kevinmurphy.com. They're very awesome shampoos. They smell awesome. They make your hair look good. And you can use them every day, which is important for me because I have to wash my hair every day, obviously. And the second, there's a warning there as well. Don't buy it on Amazon. I bought it on Amazon. There are no official sellers of this brand on Amazon, and I got a fake product, and I was absolutely livid. I put it in my hair, didn't lather, it didn't smell good. I was so pissed.
Unbelievable.
So you have to get it on
unacceptable.
kevinmurphy.com. And I'll actually tell you which one I use because I just bought it and I liked it a lot, but I'm forgetting the name here for a second. The second recommendation that I have is a hair product for you after you shower, and that's called Lay Right. You can find it on Amazon. It's they have a bunch of different ones. I use just the lowest hold, highest, most matte finish that they have, but they have a ton of good stuff. It smells really good, and I've been using it now for a little bit. I really like it. Let me see, where is the Kevin Murphy one that I used? Oh my goodness. By the way, whenever you go on a website, automatically has to like give you let you read the Constitution on cookies now. Absolutely ridiculous. You're gonna like this.
I'm a big Constitution guy. So.
The Kevin Murphy line that I like is called "the stimulate me." They have a rinse and a wash. I just had to I knew you'd enjoy that. So you can go roast me for my elitist hair takes, but I'm confident that you'll like those things if you use them. That's our podcast.
We got tiers done.
We got tiers done. That's our podcast. We'll be back. We're on Wednesday evening and Sundays with you. We'll be with you throughout the off season. Huge shout out to the syndicate. We love you. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday or your week. Peace.